Hello guys, welcome back. In today's video, we will look at the if else if and the switch statements in Java. So without wasting time, let's get started. In our previous video, we have already understood the if and the if else statements in Java. And in this video, we will look at the if else if statement. Now consider this example where I have initialized this integer variable age with the value of 18. In our previous video, we looked at the if and the if else statements in Java, where we saw that if a certain condition was satisfied, then some statements were executed. Otherwise, it was skipped, right? Now suppose that if you want to control the flow of a program based on the multiple case conditions instead of a single condition like your if and your if else. So how we can do that? So in case if we want to use the multiple case conditions, then we can simply use the if else if or the switch statements. And we will look at the switch statement in the later part of the video. For now, let us understand the if else if statements. Now suppose if we want to execute some statement if our age is less than 18, or we want to execute another statement if our age is between 18 and 60. And if both the conditions are false, then we need to execute our default statement. So this is nothing but your if else if statements, right? So similar to your if statement, if this condition is true, then the block of code inside the if block is executed. And if this condition evaluates to false, then the program looks for the else if block, right? And it checks for the condition within the else if, right? And if this condition evaluates to true, then your statement inside the else if block is executed. And if all the if and the else if conditions fail, then only your else block is executed, right? So now let us run this program and verify the output. And as you see, our age is equal to 18. So the output should be age between 18 and 60, because our condition age greater than equal to 18 and age less than equal to 60 is satisfied. So now let us run the program. Now let me compile and execute the program. And as you see, we have the output as age between 18 and 60. All right. And one thing you need to remember is that your program can contain multiple else if blocks, right? And this else block is optional after your else if. If you remove this, your program will compile properly, right? Now here I have modified the program where I've set the age to 65, and I've added another else if block where the condition is if age is greater than 60 and less than or equal to 70, then your statement age between 61 and 70 should be printed, right? So now let us run this program. So now if I compile this and run this, I should get the output as age between 61 and 70. And as you see, we have the output as age between 61 and 70. And here, if I remove this else block completely, then my program will run fine. So now let us run this. And now if I compile this and run this, I should not have any errors, right? So now let me run this. And as you see, we have the proper output as age between 61 and 70. So in this program, there are few things what we can do to optimize it, right? So we can remove this expression age greater than equal to 18, and we can also remove this age greater than 60, right? And if you save this and run this, our program should work same as expected, right? So now let me run this. And now if I compile this and run this, I should have the same output, that is age between 61 and 70. And as you see, we have the same expected output. All right. Before we understand switch statement, let us look at the syntax of if else if statements. So here, if your condition 1 is true, then your statement 1 is executed. And if your condition evaluates to false, then we look for the else if condition. And if the else if condition evaluates to true, then your statement 2 is executed. And if that also evaluates to false, then your statement 3 is executed. Now let us understand switch statement. So here I've already initialized an integer variable age with the value of 50, right? So now let us understand how to write switch statement. So first what I use is keyword switch. So I write switch, switch, and open and close the round brackets. And within those round brackets, I write this age variable and then open and close the parentheses, right? And within those parentheses, what I do is I create many cases. So first I write is case 10 and then end with a colon instead of a semicolon. You must notice this colon, right? And after that, what I do is I write some statements. So I write system dot out dot print ln and I write age is 10, right, and end with a semicolon. And just after this line, what I do is I write this break keyword and end with a semicolon, right? So now what I'll do is I'll copy this statements, right, case 10 and onwards until break. So I'll copy this 3-4 times, right? And let me align this case. So here what I'll do is make it 20 and make this age is 20. Similarly here what I'll do is make it 30 and change this to 30 and so on, right? And after all the cases, what I do is I write something like this, default keyword, right? And after the colon, what I do is I just copy the statement, this system.out.println and your age is default, right? So we'll understand this once we run this program, right? So now let me save this and run this. And now if I compile this and run this, I should have the output as age is default. So now let me execute it. And as you see, we have the output as age is default. Now let me change the value of this age variable from 50 to 30 and run this. And the output should be age is 30. Now let me compile and execute it. And as you see, we have the output as age is 30. Alright. Now suppose that if I add another statement after this line, age is 30. So I copy this and I paste it and I write, hello, right? And now if I run this, let us see the output. Now let me compile and execute it. And as you see, we have two lines of output. You have this age is 30 and below that we have this hello. So now let us understand the switch statement in detail. Now let us understand the syntax of a switch statement. So your switch expression is followed by your switch body. So this is nothing but, this part is nothing but your switch expression. And this part from here to here is your switch body, right? And usually this expression must evaluate to your integer type, such as byte, short, int and char. And it can also accept, your string and your enumerated type. And we will look at them in the later videos. But for now, you must just remember that, here in the switch expression, we can only pass 4 types like your byte, short, int and char. And apart from that, we have this string and the enumerated types. All right. So it means that, I can just write, 30. And if I save this and run this, the program should have the output as age is 30 and hello, right? So now let me run this. And if I compile and run this, I should have the output as age is 30 and hello. So now let me execute it. And as you see, we have the output. And now if I change this to 30 plus 10, the output should be age is 40. So now let me run this. And if I compile and run this, the output should be age is 40, right? And you see we have the same output. Now let us modify this program. So instead of the integer in this switch expression, what we do is we write a char. So I write something like this, right? Switch A, right? And instead of 10, what I do, I write, A, and instead of this, make it A, just for 10, just make it A. So just make it A. And similarly for this, what I do is I write B, and I make this uppercase B, right? And let me remove this for a while and just make this default char. All right, so now let me save this and run this. And now if I compile and run this, my output should be A. All right, so now let me compile it. Now let us execute it. So we have this control flow, and as you see, we have the output as A. All right, now let us modify this expression once again. So instead of A, what I do is I write 3.15. And in case A, what I do is I write 3.14. And for B, what I do is change it to 3.15, right? So, this program should not compile. And I have already told you the reason. So now let me execute it. All right. And now if I compile here, I should get the compilation error. And as you see, we have this compilation error. And the reason is that your switch expression must not evaluate to double or float. And since here we have used the floating point type, that's the reason we have this compilation error. Now let us come back to the original program and understand the switch body. So let me undo all the changes. All right, so now let us understand the switch body. So basically a switch body consists of multiple keys along with the labels and a default label. So what happens in switch statement is that, if your switch expression value is equal to the case label value, then the corresponding statements inside the case is executed, right? So for this example, we have this age equals to 30, right? So we match this with the case label 30, and all the statements inside this case 30 will be executed, right? Now you must have also noticed that I've used this keyword break. So why do we use this? So basically what break does is, it helps you come out of the switch body and execute the next statement, right? If one of the case matches, then it will execute the statements inside your case and then it will come out of the switch body. And if none of the case matches, then it will execute the statement inside your default, right? So the function of your break is to come out of the switch body. Now let us see what happens if we remove break from each and every case, right? So I will remove break from each and every case, right? Now let me save this and run this. Now let me compile and execute it. And as you see, we have 4 lines of output. Age is 30, hello, age is 40, and then we have this age is default. So now let us understand why this happens. So this is nothing but your fall through in a switch statement. So basically what happened is, your switch expression was compared with the case label, right? And every statement after your case label was executed, right? So irrespective of the case labels, every statements were executed, right? And if you would have written this break after this case 30, then only 2 lines of output would be displayed, right? Or if you would have written this, break after this 40 case, case 40, and then you would have written break, then only 3 lines of output would be displayed, right? Because this is what happens if you don't write break in your case. Now it will execute each and every statements irrespective of their case labels, right? And unless and until it will reach end of your switch body. All right, so suppose if I write this break over here, and let me write break, and if I end this with a semicolon, and now if I run this, I should have only 3 lines of output. So I'll have this age is 30, hello, age is 40, but after that what I'll encounter is a break keyword, and as soon as I encounter this break keyword, I will get out of the switch body. So now let me run this. Now let me compile and execute it. And as you see, we just have 3 lines of output. Age is 30, hello, and age is 40. And age's default was not printed because we have used break before our default label. All right. There are few things what we need to know about the switch statement. So we will look at them one by one. Now let us consider this modified example. So here what I have done is I have initialized another integer variable a with the value of 10. And in the case label, instead of this 10 value, what I have used is a variable name a, right? So now let me try to run this program and see what happens. Now let us try to compile this program. And as you see, we have this compilation error, constant expression required, right? So how do we fix this and why this happened? So first, let us fix this compilation error. So what I will do is I will add this final keyword before our integer variable a. So what I did is I have added this keyword final before the int keyword, right? So now let me save this and run this. And now if I compile this and execute it, I should have the proper outputs. So now let me execute it. And as you see, we have the output as age is 30 and hello. Now let us understand why this happened. So you got the compilation error because your case label must be a compile time constant, right? And how you can make a variable constant? By simply adding a keyword final before the variable type, right? So as soon as you make this final, it becomes the compile time constant, right? And for now, don't worry about this keyword final. We will talk about this in the later video. But for now, just remember that for the case label, it should be a compile time constant. That is, value cannot be changed once assigned, right? Suppose for this variable age, you can change it to this value from 30 to 31. But for this a variable, I cannot change the value because this is a constant. So if I try to make this a equals to 11, I'll get the compilation error, right? So you should make sure that your case label is always a compile time constant. And next thing what we need to know is that you can execute a single statement for multiple case labels, right? So here we have this case 10, 20 and 30. So if value this 20 matches with any of these 3 case labels, then this statement will be executed, right? And if it matches with either of these 2 case labels, then this statement ages 40 or 50 will be executed, right? So you can use single statement for multiple labels, right? So now let me run this program and the output should be age is 10 or 20 or 30, right? So now let me run this. Now let me compile and execute. Now let me execute it. And as you see, we have the output as ages 10 or 20 or 30. And one thing you need to remember is that you can write default anywhere in the switch body. So you can write somewhere in the top, right? And it will work perfectly fine. But only thing is that you need to add break after the default statement. Otherwise you can have a fall through. All right. And last thing you need to be aware about switch statement is that your switch body can be empty and program will work properly. That is, there are no case and default labels. All right. So that is it for the switch statements. And this is the syntax of your switch statements. All right. So that is it for the today's video. And please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And I will see you until next time.